everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to our presentation of Try Me Good King, The Last Words of the Wives of Henry VIII by Libby Larson, a performance guide. My name is Heather Hawk, and this is my good friend and colleague, Leslie Spotz, and we are both professors here at Tarleton State University in Stephenville, Texas. And this work did not just fall into our laps. We have been performing this work for several years now, and each time we find more to love about it. There's more difficulties every time we revisit it, and this time in particular, it's felt really comfortable for some reason. It has really come together, and it's been a great collaboration, especially with such a fiendishly difficult work. So we're not going to talk too much. We're just going to set up the story and what we think is important about the music, and then we'll get to what's really important, which is the music. And the song cycle is about 17 minutes in total. There's 5 movements total, and that each movement represents the wife of Henry VIII that he outlived. So he did have a 6th wife, Catherine Parr, but she outlives him, so Libby Larson just decided to focus on those first 5 wives. So you might have heard this phrase before. It's divorce, behead, die, divorce, behead. And that is the order in which how Henry VIII's wives indeed died. And so the first one was Catherine of Aragon, and she was granted a divorce by Henry VIII because she could not produce the heir that he wanted. And so that first song is just a letter to him begging for forgiveness. And so even though that is a tragic situation, she still has, there's still a little bit of love in her heart throughout that first movement. The second movement is Anne Boleyn's movement, and so she was executed after a very short marriage to Henry VIII, and she is full of anger, she is full of rage, rightfully so, and so she just lets the crowd have it, and she just really lays her emotions out there raw and bare. And so someone had recounted her words at the execution, and Libby Larson uses those in that second movement, so very heavy stuff. The third movement's dialogue is a plea to the council from Jane Seymour. So Jane Seymour dies shortly after childbirth to an heir for Henry VIII. And so she's pleading with the council to just say, like, just let me die peacefully, let me go. And so they did grant her that. So that third movement is very desperate, and it's more of a, in contrast to Anne Boleyn, it's more of a quiet desperation. Complete opposite, the fourth movement is about Henry VIII's 4th wife, Anne of Cleves. And if you know anything about this, the history of this, he was married to her for 6 months. He only knew who she was from a picture. And when she appeared, he said, "Oh, that's not, you didn't look like the picture." And so he didn't even want to go through with the wedding. And so he was granted a divorce from her 6 months after their marriage. And this is just a letter from her just saying, like, "Oh, I wasn't who you thought I was. Whatever, sorry." So it's just saturated with this very, very heavy sarcasm. And the 5th movement, which is maybe perhaps the most heartbreaking, because this was Catherine Howard, and she was also executed, beheaded, and it was allegedly for infidelity that she had. And she's basically just saying, "I didn't do it, please believe me." And so at the end, she just sort of accepts it, and it's just a really sad way to end this prolific and emotionally taxing song cycle. And Libby Larson just really does this in a profound way. The first thing that really drew Leslie and I to this song cycle and this topic, not just because of the challenge, because when you look at the music, you're like, "Oh, this is so difficult from a melodic standpoint, from a rhythmic standpoint," but it's the text that really draws you in. It's so vulnerable, it's so unique, and it's really unusual because it's 5 passages of these women's words essentially before their death. And so the way that she puts all of these emotions together, it's just frustratingly magical. And the way that she sets it rhythmically, it makes it seem as though, even though I'm singing the entire time, it makes it seem as though maybe you could hear how it would be spoken or how it would be read aloud in a letter. And so in order to do that, Libby Larson's rhythmic patterns are, I mean, everything that you could have thrown at you rhythmically, she does it. It's just rhythmic gymnastics all over. No rhyme or reason. There's no themes or rhythmic patterns. You're just really speech singing throughout the entire thing. Not only is the rhythm difficult, but the melodic line, wow, really difficult. There's just so much. There's multiple octave leaps within one phrase of music. There's a sustained pianissimo dynamic that's just, you could hear a pin drop, and then it's like followed right after by a fortissimo high C. And so it's rhythmic gymnastics, it's melodic gymnastics, it's all over the place. You have to have the vocal prowess and the vocal stamina to be able to get through all of these pieces and to really do these women justice. So we say it throughout whenever we're practicing, and I know Leslie's going to touch on it also, but these women were not given a voice during their lifetime. And it's just so important that Libby Larson gives these women their own voice. I feel like in history, we know a lot about Henry VIII, we talk about him, but what about the wives? What about their emotion? And speaking of emotion, okay, yes, it's musically so difficult. Oh, also to mention, the piano and the voice, they never really come together. You have to have this great collaboration, but there's no time where we're both jiving at the same time. From the jump, Leslie's in her own world, I'm in my own world, and we have to just coexist sort of in this perfect way in order to convey the text and to convey the music well enough. And that way it really reads sort of like a one-woman opera throughout, but you're the one-woman opera that is embodying 5 characters in such a short amount of time. So emotionally, you know, like I said, I went through each wife, and yes, they're all mad. Yes, they're all sad. Yes, it's tragic, but it's in different ways. And so in order to produce that emotional nuance throughout each movement, you have to really be in touch with how the wife was feeling at the time. You have to really have a good grasp of the musical content, because you don't have time to think about that. It's constantly moving. So you really just have to put yourself in that emotional state throughout. Yeah, like I said, it's frustratingly magical in many ways, especially when it really comes together and it feels right and it's done well. And so Libby Larson included this quote at the very top of Try Me Good King in the sheet music, and it says, "Music exists in an infinity of sound. I think of all music as existing in the substance of the air itself. It is the composer's task to order and make sense of sound in time and space, to communicate something about being alive through music." And Libby really does that. She brings these wives' voices to life, and we hope to do these wives justice.
It's a great pleasure to be here and to have this collaboration and project. As I always say, anytime I get to work with Heather Hawk is a good day. As she mentioned, the singer, the voice, represents each wife, and the personality, even though the wives are at the same place of just before death, it is coming together. There are elements of each woman's personality that does come through in the text and the emotion. The piano, the role of the piano is a supportive role, and even though the piano and voice do remain separate, the interwoven connection has to do with the fact that the piano is the stage and the environment, and even though the two are separate, the singer is placed in the environment created by the piano and the the stage. And that would be how I think it comes together. Libby Larson quotes lute songs from the era of Elizabeth I. And Larson states that it is a tapestry of unsung words which comment on the real situation of each doomed queen. And the amazing thing is that you do not get the words of these lute songs, but the tune is there, and it's always underneath as an undercurrent that adds to the intensity and also gives us a sense of the era in which these women lived. The first quoted song in Catherine of Aragon is John Dowland's "In Darkness Let Me Dwell." He goes on, Libby Larson goes on to quote Dowland again in the song Anne Boleyn, "If my complaints could passions move." And you'll notice these titles and the words to the song actually totally support each wife and what they were going through at the moment. 3, Jane Seymour, Michael Praetorius, "Lo, how a rose ere blooming." And you'll probably recognize that inside the song. Anne of Cleves, the humor totally comes through in both the rhythmic strength and the interaction between the singer and the piano, and Thomas Campion's "I Care Not for These Ladies." In song number 1, the piano part, bass left hand, has repeated notes that recalls a lute. But Larson uses this idea of imitating a lute when the note is repeated the same over and over. It calls to add the psychological tension that really permeates the first song. In the first song of Catherine of Aragon, the third song, Jane Seymour, and the final song, Catherine Howard, she utilizes imitation of bells, but in a starkly, it's all dissonant. There's very little real harmonic, it's not like there's triadic harmony that's obvious. A few little places in Jane Seymour is all I would say, but she mentions in her work on writing on this piece that she means the imitation of the bells as a method that releases the spiritual meaning of the words of the text of the wives. It was our great honor and pleasure to, in addition to several other performances, that we were able to perform this cycle in New York City. And it was also a great privilege that Libby Larson listened to one of our performances of this piece and did mention that it included a glorious voice and a great collaboration. And so we're quite honored to have that in our work on this piece. I also just want to add in final remarks that we are both so grateful and appreciative to Libby Larson's work. She made great time and effort doing the research into finding and discovering these texts, the last words of each of these 5 women before they died. That's a remarkable work of research, and then after that to make it synthesis into this, what I consider to be, and I think we both consider to be, a great masterpiece of our time. And yet, she gave women and all of us the opportunity to learn more about the voice of these women that during their lifetime was taken away from them. not only their death, but these words were actually, you know, like sort of lying in a library. I mean, it wasn't like they were evident and you could just go and find them. And the fact that she's brought these words of these women to our attention and we can offer them to you today is really a wonderful expression for us. There are women today, alive right now today, who are also not given a voice. And I think we both believe that women as well as people should be granted their voice. Everyone deserves a voice.
And with that, this is Try Me Good King, the last words of the wives of Henry VIII. Thank you for tuning in. My most dear Lord, King and husband, the hour of my death now drawing on. The tender love I owe you forces me to commend myself unto you. wish to God I had done as Culpepper wished me.